Okay, so before we get too much further along, you're going to want to know when you're modeling how to set the surfaces to smooth or flat. And in object mode, you'll find that over here under this Tools tab, and down here under Shading, Smooth or Flat. So if I go Smooth or Flat, I can change it at the object level. Go back to Flat. If I go into Edit mode, by default it selects everything. A deselects it, right? And you can see it's still flat. And to adjust the shading in edit mode, you go here to Shading UVs, and you can adjust it on the faces, edges, or the vertices right there, right? So I'll just select all and hit smooth faces, right? So you can see that that does the same thing. Alright, so with that out of the way, I think I've covered the editing things I want to cover for now as far as where everything is down here, and I want to move up to the outliner, and that also segues to another subject, so let's get right into that. If you notice in the outliner, if I expand this little button here, I expand the torus object, I'll find the torus mesh underneath it. That's that little triangle there. It means it's a mesh. Okay, and the reason is because in Blender there's an object which is a container, and it contains a mesh. And so when you click on the mesh, it goes into edit mode. It also toggles in and out of edit mode, you see, like that. And that's because basically you're editing the mesh, which is contained inside the object. So I have some ways to illustrate that even further, but let's just accept that at face value for right now, and let's go down here to the properties panel. Okay, so the 1, 2, 3, 4 icons on the left we're just going to ignore for now. We're not interested for modeling. Okay, and then the first one we're interested in is this cube, and that is the object properties. So these are properties at the object level, and the most basic property to edit would be the name. So click on that, and then let's name this to tube, right? With the proper language on my keyboard, and then there you go. Alright, so now over here we have constraints, which we're not interested in right now, modifiers, which we'll come back to later, but you can add modifiers here like mirror, and then now we have the mesh menu. Okay, so it's mainly these two panels that we're interested in, and also modifiers for some stuff that we'll do. But to explain what I'm going to explain now, these are the two that we're interested in, this cube and that mesh panel. Okay, so under the mesh panel we have vertex groups, and shape keys in Blender are the same as blend shapes or morph maps in Lightwave. Okay, so that's where we'll find all that stuff. Now it's important to make a note of the fact that there is a list of meshes in the scene. There's a list of the objects in the scene, a lamp, camera, right? They all have their properties, right? Okay, and go back to the tube, and then over here we have a list of the meshes in the scene, and it just happens to be that all these things that I've been adding while I had Blender open are stored over here, right? Even though I may have deleted them, they still exist over here. So I can put this sphere back in there, and hey, wait a minute, where'd that come from? Well, let's describe that a little bit clearer. Let me just go new and reload the startup file, and then let me just start with another torus. So now if I go here, here's the torus mesh, and there's no more mesh objects in the object in this file because it cleared them all out, right? So but if I go Shift A and I add a cone, let's take the cone and put it over there, okay, and I select the tube or the torus, and I go over here, and now I select the cone. So now the tube, the torus container, even though it's still called torus, it now has a mesh called cone. And if you notice, I can drag on what's going on here? What happened to my there we go. So I can drag on this, and I'm dragging on both meshes at the same time. And so now that I've opened up this can of worms, we're going to cover this more in the next video.